after you retired, you actually said that you had a sex addiction to the point where you would have sex between innings.
That was just a couple of times in different ballparks, you know.
How do you pull that off between innings?
Yeah, you're not batting, you know. That was only in Chicago, you know. You're not batting,
Okay.
you know.
You just have a girl in the stash somewhere, like
There was
somewhere.
listen. We were talking about playing in the '80s, it was '80s, '90s. It was different. Girls are everywhere, you know. Girls were just open to all kind of things.
Hmm.
That's why, you know, as a player of today, you got to be extremely careful, you know, because if something happens, you could lose your career because of, you know, internet and social media, and they have all those different outlets. We didn't have all those outlets. So it was really easy to do some things that we were doing. You know, baseball players and athletes in period, you know, we have an animal style in us, you know. It's nothing like really personal that we take against anybody, but, you know, I just think girls are beautiful. And, you know, when I was playing back in those days, and those opportunities were just always there, you know, and sometimes you was in a different ballpark and there was an opportunity there. You make a split decision. But I need to get back on the field.
Okay. We only got 5 minutes, so let's make it work. Okay. Well, around that time, you and Doc Gooden, you would be sent to all types of events where you would sign autographs, take pictures, everything else like that, and you would get paid $10,000 here, $15,000 there. And you had a team of accountants and lawyers and so forth that was supposed to handle everything. And then out of nowhere, the IRS showed up and said that you owe $300,000 because a lot of these appearances you actually weren't declaring them and paying taxes on them. And you talked about in your book, which was crazy to me, is you guys were making so much money that you would ride home, you and Doc Gooden would just throw $100 bills out the window just to do it.
We did. We were giving it to kids in those neighborhoods. I mean, because we were making so much money, you know, cash, you know, doing appearances, 15,000, 12,000 cash, and nobody was ever talking about it. Everybody was doing it at that time, and what happened was they got a window at the IRS, and they got my statements and other player statements, and they called me and they said, "Well, you're the ringleader." I said, "I'm not the ringleader." I said, "I'm just one of the guys we're getting cash like everybody else was." Well, they said, "Well, why don't you tell us about everybody? Tell us about Eric Davis. Tell us about Hope Canseco, Ricky Henderson." I said, "I don't know nothing about them. I know I got 12,000 cash." They said, "Well, if you don't rat on everybody else, you're going to take the fall." I said, "Well, I'm just going to have to take the fall because I'm not ratting on nobody. You're not getting anything out of me." So they indicted me, and I took the fall. I was not going to be a rat, I could tell you that. Like most players went in there singing a song to the IRS, "Well, it's Darryl Strawberry, he's the star," you know, and I come in and they tell me, "Well, this guy said this guy said that." And they said, "What do you have to say about it?" I said, "I had nothing to say." And they said, "Well, you will be indicted." I said, "Well, I just have to be indicted because I'm not saying anything about anybody, because I said I don't know anything about anybody's business and I don't care about them. I'm going to tell you what I did, and then if you want to indict me on that, then so be it." And that's what happened. They ended up indicting me on that. The IRS ended up indicting me for $300,000, not paying taxes on. So I had to go through that process, and I went through it because, you know, it was either me or what I'd lay over and tell on people, and I won't do that. I come from where I came from, South Central L.A. You just don't do that. That's just a no-no, no matter what. I don't care what it looks like. It's just a no-no.
Right. Snitches get stitches.